everybody, and I'm so pleased to see quite a number of people here tonight from both districts, from presidents, assistant governors, and various team members. So it's great to see everybody. It is a great opportunity for us to all to get to know each other, and it's definitely a lot of collaborative working. We're really looking forward to John's presentation. This is a new thing that we've thought we would do to help assist clubs with foundation. So I'm pleased that this event is happening. So I'll hand you over to Duncan.
Thank you, Gail. As you'll see, I've not got the sparkly dress on that Gail's got, and I should have gone to hair and makeup before I came on the screen tonight, but you'll forgive me, I hope. I'm just an ordinary working Rotarian, as it were. As Gail says, I am absolutely delighted and thrilled that we've got the two district people here, the teams here together tonight. Lots of people who are going to benefit from hearing more about foundation. When I do my district governor visits to clubs, I talk to them about foundation and encourage them to make sure that they're using foundation in their marketing and also in fundraising, because in the last few weeks and months, foundation has provided the districts 1230 and 1020 with huge amounts of money to assist the people in Ukraine, and our district has already made payments or created payments of $75,000 worth of district recovery or district response grants for Ukraine. So we need to replenish the funds. That's the bottom line. We need to be aware of what the foundation does. We need to be aware of how we can maximize our impact by giving to foundation. So please listen to what John has got to say. It's going to be fundamental for the future of Rotary going forward. It's our charity. We have no other charity but the Rotary Foundation. So listen to John.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for that, Duncan. Just about to say, you said it all. I just provide detail now. Can you hear me all right? Yes.
Now, wait a minute, John, and I'll spotlight you if I can find you.
We'll just make sure that I've had to move the back a wee bit. I just want to make sure.
Got you.
I did get complaints from the district secretary before that my microphone did as well as it could.
Just before you start, John, just to say, folks, we are recording this. I'll edit all the bad bits out at the front where people were making jokes, and I'll stick it up onto YouTube. And if I send it to the two district governors, they could just, well, I'll send it to everybody that's on. But if the district governors want to perhaps send it out to their club presidents, or if their AGs want to send it out to their club presidents, then and nobody who's joined would be at least to be able to listen to John, get a wee bit more information. If that's acceptable to everyone.
Yes.
Yeah. Right, John, the floor's yours.
Thank you. I just want to confirm that everybody could hear me all right for a start. But, as I say, my microphone sometimes is not as it could be. So if anybody's got any issues, just please put your hand up and let me know that you're not able to hear me as well as you could. There's always one, Mr. Shaw.
It's just your voice is echoey.
Right. Okay.
Difficult to hear.
Right. I'll use my. Right. Okay. I take it you can all hear me now.
That's better.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Good evening, all. Dexter Doc Green style there. One of my predecessors. I was just saying to Duncan that he's actually said most of what I want to say. Mine's is just perhaps in a bit more detail. So could I welcome you all to this information input on the Rotary Foundation?
This came about as a result of conversations and emails which indicated a level of confusion and a lack of knowledge about foundation at several levels within District 1230. And I initially suggested to Andy that we could provide some input that would be directed at the assistant governors initially within District 1230. It has since grown arms and legs, hence we have 32 on board. I didn't think we had 32 assistant governors within Scotland, never mind anywhere else. So some of the comments that were coming out directed towards me were along the lines of, you have loads of money. I don't know whether that was a personal comment or whether it was meant as the Rotary funds, but I can assure you that neither of the two comments are true. Why can't we do a global grant? Issues behind that relate to many things. It could be you're not in tune with the areas of foundation, you're not, areas of focus, you're not in tune with the financial implications surrounding it, and I'll go into more detail about that later on. I'm hoping to just give a broad brush, probably of about 20 minutes or so, and hopefully leave the meeting open then to any questions that you have with regard to how the funds operate, or whatever. If you need some more specific information, then we could attend to that later on. If you feel you have a burning question and you want to ask the question as we go along, please feel free to do so. It's Andy's fingers that are on the buttons of the actual slideshow, so we don't have to overly concern ourselves with putting a hold on the next slide. Okay. I'm hoping that the broad brush will dispel some of the myths and provide some clarity to you all. And we shall move on to, if Andy wants to bring the slideshow up or not. Okay, go to slide 2, Andy, please. As Duncan mentioned earlier on, foundation is your charity. It is the only charity that Rotary are involved with as a direct consequence of your contributions, and it is the one that should be in people's foremost in people's minds when we are doing presentations at clubs at the district level, and to ensure that people are well aware that foundation is your charity and it is the Rotary charity. All of the other foundations and charities we're involved with are out with our organisation. Moving on, Andy. Foundation was brought about by past RI President Arch Clumph at the 1917 Atlanta Convention, forming a permanently endowed fund that would enable Rotary clubs to respond to charitable needs for the purpose of doing good in the world. So, foundation funds are primarily the annual fund, End Polio Now, the endowment fund, and there is also the disaster response or relief fund. Contributions can be made to all of these funds at any time, but in the instance, in the instance of the disaster fund, it's more usually done at a time of immediate need. For example, the tsunami disaster, COVID pandemic, and currently the war in Ukraine. When you contribute towards the annual fund, you're providing the Rotary Foundation the means to fund projects throughout the world, ranging from sand dams in Africa, boreholes for water, delivering medical facilities to hospitals, or more recently, providing equipment for mercy ships. In recent years, the Foundation has become a victim of its own success, and the restrictions on fundraising throughout the past 2 years has had an impact on the level of support available. As a consequence of this, your assistance as an assistant governor, and whatever other titles are on the communication tonight, and obviously what you can dispense by the way of information to the clubs under your remit. Moving on, Andy. How much do you know about Foundation? It was the bit that I was about to, that I have just gone over. But how much detail do you know about Foundation? Next one, Andy. Thinking about it. Shoot. Foundation funds for district and global grants are available and expended entirely in relation to the Rotary Foundation's 7-area of focus as indicated here. But let's have a look at them a bit more closely. Moving on, Andy. Promoting peace, right. Rotary encourages conversations to foster understanding within and across cultures. We train adults and young leaders to prevent and mediate conflict and help refugees who have fled dangerous areas. Typical example of that just now is the Ukrainian crisis. Fighting disease, we educate and equip communities to stop the spread of life-threatening diseases like polio, HIV/AIDS, malaria. We improve and expand access to low-cost and free healthcare in developing areas. Providing clean water, sanitation and hygiene. This is collectively known as the WASH programme. We support local solutions to bring clean water, sanitation and hygiene to more people every day. We don't just build wells and walk away. We share our expertise with community leaders and educators to make sure our projects succeed long term. Next slide, Andy. I think the slides are out of kilter. I will go back to the one I missed a minute. Growing local economies. I've missed a couple out. Someone's been playing about with my slides, I think. Not with slides.
I've gone back. That's the
no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Supporting education. More than 775 million people over the age of 15 are illiterate. Our goal is to strengthen the capacity of communities to support basic education and literacy, reduce gender disparity in education, and increase adult literacy. Growing local economies, we carry out service projects that enhance economic and community development and create opportunities for decent and productive work for young and old. We also strengthen local entrepreneurs and community leaders, particularly women in impoverished communities. Protecting the environment, the latest of, or the newest area of focus that we are engaging with. Rotary members are tackling environmental issues the way they always do, coming up with projects, using their connections to change policy and plans for the future. Next slide, Andy. Money in before money out. All of these funds that I mentioned earlier on can only benefit people who are approaching them with projects if they have the funds to do so. If we don't contribute, as Duncan mentioned earlier on, if we don't contribute to the funds, then we can't be expected to take money out of them. Next slide, Andy. Just going to move something on my screen here so that I can actually see the text I'm talking about. Right. Why do we give to the annual fund? As I said earlier on, the more we give, the more we can receive back. Providing support to local communities, scholars, projects, and End Polio Now. The annual fund is there to support all projects within domestic and international communities. Distribution of funds during the COVID pandemic in 2020 in the form of the disaster response grants benefited everyone taking part, with $25,000 directed towards COVID-related issues in each district that applied for them. This enabled them to distribute funds within within their own communities. I know that my district were involved in giving money to food banks and providing PPE, that type of equipment. Global grants are awarded on a matched fund basis of 80% of funds from the district designated fund, and must be a minimum of $30,000 in total. The district designated fund for a grant of $30,000 requires an input from the district of $16,800. All global and district grants should be in line with the areas of focus that I mentioned earlier on. Projects from a club will require to overcome a number of hurdles before final approval by the Rotary Foundation in Evanston. Now, I haven't scripted this next bit. I had a long conversation, excuse me a second, I'm just going to clear my throat. I had a long conversation with one of my district's clubs at our conference on Saturday. I sat with the member of the club for over an hour explaining how you go about doing a global grant, what you need to do, when you need to do it. So they are well aware now that they have about 8 or 9 hurdles at least to overcome before they get to the point where a global grant will be awarded to the district. So if you are thinking of doing a global grant for one of the areas of focus, then you need to know that $16,800 from the district designated fund is available to you. This is because cash contributions, money from other clubs, monies from other charities do not qualify for the match funding. Okay, so you need to know that any funding that you accumulate, that must be a minimum of 16,800 from the DDF. For you to go beyond $30,000, that is a must. You just can't do it without it. Applications through the DDF are wholly dependent on the funds available within the district pot, or where there is a collaboration with other districts. They can contribute their DDF to boost ours, which then still qualifies for the 80% match funding. There is a complication at the moment to determine the exact figures available to all of the districts, especially at the moment in the ones within RGB&I, because of a software issue at the Rotary Foundation, which hasn't allowed the carry forward figure from which the money that wasn't spent last year to be added to the funds that we would have expected to get at the start of the year, based on funds that we contributed 3 years ago. Once this has been resolved, the funds available to the districts, each district will be known. We will have, and you can speak to Alan McLaughlin in District 1020, and I know he's on the call tonight, or Joyce or myself at District 1230, and we could advise you accordingly. But at the moment, we don't have exact figures, and hopefully that will be resolved in the not too distant future. Sorry, I should have moved on. Next slide, Andy. Right, 25% of our contributions made now. In fact, I'll just let you read that rather than me lose my voice before the end of the presentation. We get 50% in total of our money back that we have contributed 3 years ago. 25% is available for district grants, 25% goes into the district designated fund. Now, can I point out something with district designated fund? This is not cash that we have in a bank account. This is money held by Rotary Foundation on our behalf, and it's only released on request from ourselves. You can only use it for global grants and things like End Polio Now. You cannot spend it willy-nilly. It has got to be attributed to a specific cause. Moving on, Andy. The other 50% is utilised by the Rotary Foundation on their contribution towards global grants, scholarships, End Polio Now, and other programmes throughout the world. Moving on. The Charity Navigator is the they're an overseer of charitable organisations, and they determine that the capabilities and the function of our charity is working as well as can be. We have this 4% rating, for 4-star rating, and we've had that for 14, 15 years now. So that gives you an idea of how well our charity is doing. You see for yourself the availability of the funds, where the money is spent, and the fact that all projects are in the hands of Rotarians. Could I point out that the endowment fund, the money that you put into the endowment fund is never spent, only the interest gained on it. Okay, move on, Andy. Personal commitment to funding is what makes the fund operate. If you look at the levels of funding that you can, where you can contribute money, every Rotarian every year is what EREY stands for, and this is the basic level of a personal commitment to the Rotary Annual Fund. $25. A few months ago, $25 was something like £15, especially when you added gift aid onto it. Unfortunately, with the exchange rate, and I'll highlight that later on, it's more than £15 at the moment. All we can hope is that the exchange rate goes up. But where we gain in one respect, we lose on another. And the reason I'm saying that is that the disaster fund, when they send $25,000, we're getting a lot more than £20,000 for the exchange rate. So it's working on our benefit when we're taking money out, but not when we're putting money in. Sustaining membership. Each member has the ability, and whether they have the capacity or not is entirely up to yourself. But if you contribute at least $100 per year to the annual fund, you are classed as a sustaining member. You can accumulate these funds over a number of years to give you a credit towards awarding yourself a Paul Harris Fellowship. So that's something you might want to consider. If you want to become a benefactor or place an endowment, then I would ask you to speak to your district foundation chair, and they will advise you on the correct method of going along that route. If you wish to become a Paul Harris Society member, then again, please contact the DRFC within your own district, and they will advise you how you can do that. It just depends on how long your arms are and how short your pockets are to be able to dig deep, to be able to go down that route. Moving on, Andy. I was thinking about it, the mouse is on the move. Right, personal recognition. This is the bit that was mentioned earlier on. Cumulative contributions by yourself and your clubs to the annual fund are credited towards a Paul Harris Fellowship, with each credit equivalent to $1,000 of giving. As I said, you can achieve this in your own right by being a sustaining member over 10 years or shorter. If you wish to give more than $100 per year, that's entirely up to yourself. The awards can be made by clubs in recognition of members and even non-members' service to the Rotary organisation. And you as an individual can gift Paul Harris Fellowships based on your own contributions to other people or to yourself. Now, there is an issue with regard to Paul Harris Fellowships in that what we do in the UK is slightly different from what we do or what is done elsewhere. In the past, Paul Harris recognitions are, in the words of some of my American colleagues, literally a recognition of the fact that you have given money. Whereas in the UK, they have been up until now, they will continue to be, but up until now, they have been a recognition of service. From the 1st of July this year, that has changed in as much as if you have given $1,000 in the last year or so, then you will automatically be given a Paul Harris Fellowship by Rotary International. So there are moves afoot within that area. So if you wish to make some inquiries about it, you can very easily go into the My Rotary section of the RI website and look at how much you have contributed over the years and determine whether that is an option that you wish to pursue. Next one, Andy. The club's input to the funds, I've just mentioned the annual fund, the same could apply to other areas, but contributions to the annual fund can be made by the club at any time during the course of the year. And every club contributing to $1,500, sorry, every club is asked to set a target of $1,500 to the End Polio Now programme. Smaller clubs, and I'll let the district governors determine what is a small club and what isn't, but they can opt for a $55 per head target figure rather than the $1,500. Obviously, if there's less than 20 or so members in the club, then $1,500 becomes a more difficult figure to achieve. Next one, Andy. End Polio Now. Next one again. Similarly, there is a new scheme. We have in RGB&I adopted a Polio Plus Society. Again, similar figures to the sustaining membership. If you give $100 per year to the Polio Plus Society, it will also be attributed to your overall giving, should you wish to enter into the scenario I described with regard to the Paul Harris Fellowships. The idea of the Polio Plus Society for everyone, sorry, for anyone who pledges to donate this figure has caught the imaginations of Rotarians throughout the world. While it was started within the UK, there is interest growing beyond our boundaries. And although not an official programme of the Rotary Foundation as yet, it has the support of the Foundation trustees and the Polio Plus committees. This will enhance our commitment to End Polio Now within RGB&I, improving our giving to the cause, which has been a major Rotary programme for over 40, I keep thinking it's over 40 years, it's nearly 40 years, and we believe we're reaching the final hurdle of eradication, but we just need to keep going. Next slide, Andy. Can I ask you as leaders within Rotary, whether you are a club president or an assistant governor or even higher up the food chain, that you lead by example and become a sustaining member and encourage other members with your own club to try and participate in that. If last year, I'm just going by last year's figures, if everyone in District 1230 was a sustaining member, we would have been putting $94,000 into the fund, which meant that in 3 years' time, we would be able to take out $47,000. At the moment, we are looking at an annual return of something like $14,000, which is very discouraging, to say the least. And that is why we are asking people to really seriously consider becoming a sustaining member. Okay, moving on. Remember that your contribution can be augmented by 20% with gift aid. The current figures, and I'm just checking my notes before I give specific information. Up until the summer, the suggested figure of contribution by standing order was £7 per month, which gave you £84 a year, which equated to $117.60. Adding gift aid on equated to $156.80. The reason we said £7 was to try and ensure that if you were a gift aid contributor, sorry, if you were a contributor for sustaining membership with gift aid, that exchange rates would not greatly affect your contributions. So instead of giving $100 a year, at £7 a month, you were giving something like 150, just under $160. Currently, £7 per month equates to $100.80. Now, I know a lot of you are going to run away and grab your calculator. It's $100.80 if you added another 50 pence on, because £7 is not enough to qualify you as a sustaining member. Obviously, there are slightly different figures for Ireland because they don't get gift aid, not in the way that we know it. And the scenario just now with the state of the pound means that we have to contribute more to achieve that target figure of $100. Things may change over the next 12 months, one never knows, but you can't keep chopping and changing your donation because of the standing order scenario, and that's why we suggested that you give a higher amount. Unfortunately, the higher amount is not enough to even sustain the $100 at the moment. As I say, hopefully things will improve over a period of time. Moving on, Andy. Right, I'm going to stop talking to give my voice a bit of a rest. Thanking you for coming along and listening to my contribution to what's happening within the foundation within the UK. I will ask Andy to move on to the next slide, which you'll be pleased to know is the last one. And I am happy to answer questions where I can. If I can't, then I would ask you to drop me an email and I will respond along the lines of a reply by email. The situations with regard to the funding change quite regularly, but there is a level of stability from the American side of the foundation, and as much as that their dollar is more secure than our pound. Before I just latterly, before I move on to the questions, could I say to you that the disaster fund that we're about to receive, I got confirmation yesterday that the money, $25,000, will be in District 1230's bank account by tomorrow, and we can then start looking at the various avenues that we can utilise that within the district to help Ukrainians here in the west of Scotland. Now, while I'm saying that, if any of the assistant governors or club presidents feel there is a need in their particular area that they think is not being addressed, please let me know, and we will look at trying to use some of the funds in these areas. At the moment, we are engaged with some 8 out of the 12 district councils in the Strathclyde area and Loch Aber. So the only ones that are out of kilter at the moment are Ayrshires, Western Barton, Dumfries and Galloway. And as I say, there's the Loch Aber, I think we will be looking at trying to get some funding from us. The funds are quite diverse in their use. So please, if you think there is a specific need, please let me know. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking. Questions, please put your hand up on the reaction button down below, and I'll endeavour to answer as best I can.
And Margaret Marcus was first up.
Oh, there's always one troublemaker.
Oh, I'm sorry, John. No, it's more a question, I presume, for the future, for when the two districts come together. What's the view of the new district, if you have one as part of the foundation, about clubs who do not contribute to the foundation? And if they don't contribute, will they be allowed to gain from the benefit from a district grant?
Partner crime here, what you're asking, because she can't hear the headphone. The situation, and I believe this to be the case in both districts, although it's still to be streamlined. If you don't contribute or haven't contributed, I'm not sure the exact specific number of years, in District 1230, if you haven't contributed to the Rotary Foundation in the last 2 years, you cannot apply for a district or a global grant.
Thank you, that's fine.
Simple
I
as that.
take it that will go forward as well.
Well, all
because
of
you're the
Allen,
same in District 12, 10, 20.
well, 10, 20, all of Allen are on, and I know that there's something similar, but again, without having the papers right in front of me at this moment, I can't answer on their behalf. But I'm sure they will be able to advise you what the scenario is. But as I say, for 1230, if you don't contribute within 2 years, then sorry, and that's the last 2 Rotary years. So if you were to apply if you were to apply now for a district grant, you're too late anyway. But were you to apply now, then we're going back to look at contributions from July 2020.
No, that's good to know, John. That's good that's going to be taken forward as well.
And I get a wee note from your district governor who
yeah,
says
I know.
that is basically the same. Did he? I don't know if he sent. Oh, he did send it to everyone, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks for your question.
Andrew has a question.
Thank you, John, for your presentation. Just a quick question. How does a Rotarian become a sustaining member?
Your DRFC, that's your District Rotary Foundation Chair, for one of these. And I hope that's not back to front lettering you're seeing at the other end. There is a form that you can fill in. What you need to do is set up a standing order. You also need to send on a gift aid declaration so that the Rotary Foundation can claim the gift aid on your behalf from His Majesty's Customs and Excise, and it's as simple as that.
Okay, thank you.
I have.
I was just going to say, John, if it was useful, I can send that out along with the appropriate forms when I send the link out of the video.
Right. There is an online version as well. You don't have to have this, but it's handy to have it because you can read up a bit about the sustaining membership anyway. So if you want one of these, just let me know and we can post it to you. If you want the link or a paper copy, then that could be passed on to you as well. But as I say, there's 2 elements to it: the standing order and the gift aid form.
Olive is next.
Thank you. Thank you, John, for your presentation. That was great. Just to make a comment about gift aid, I think people need to be aware that they should send their money to RFUK to get the gift aid. Don't send it to the Rotary Foundation in Evanston.
The leaflet specifies RFUK. I'm not sure if the paper copy does. I think it does as well. But we had several members in District 1230 who were giving considerable amounts of money, and then they realised that because they were sending it direct to the Rotary Foundation in America, that gift aid wasn't applied, so they were missing out. As I say, $100 becomes 125 when you add the gift aid onto it.
I've taken the liberty, John, of pasting your email address and mobile number to everyone in the chat. So if you do want to contact John, you've got his details there. Ian, you're next.
Thanks, Sandy. John, can I ask how you go about increasing your contributions? Do you have to cancel the first one?
Cancel the first one and make out a new standing order. But when you do it, would you please let Rotary Foundation UK know what you've done?
Yeah.
I mean, they will know that you've sent another standing order form, but they won't know that you've cancelled the previous one until the money stops coming in. It's to stop them doing a double request to Customs and Revenue on the basis of the money they're getting in. Obviously, they won't apply for it right away. It goes in somewhere in the region of 7 days after the end of the month, and believe it or not, within another 4 or 5 days, the Customs and Revenue send the gift aid money back. So it's quite a quick process. And likewise, if you're going in and looking at your contributions on the my Rotary section of the website, don't be surprised if your contribution for last month, for example, does not appear as an enhanced figure because of gift aid, because sometimes it takes a bit of time to attribute all of these individual amounts of money onto your personal record.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm just trying to scoot through, John, to see if I can see anybody who hasn't used the B button but has got a hand up. I don't see anyone. Chris, have you got your hand up, or are you just rubbing your chin? I think he was just rubbing his chin.
Yeah, I'm just listening with interest, thank you. I'm not Chris, I'm actually Charles from Dumfries Devagilla.
Oh, it's Chris, it's on your screen now.
Very interesting. Yes, I know, that's my wife. She uses her computer.
I don't see anyone else with their hands up, John.
Okay. While you're all pondering about whether to ask another, the situation with the Ukrainian aid. Your district,
John.
It should be operating now.
Yeah, it's working now.
Okay, sorry, my assistant keeps plugging me and unplugging me so she can hear the questions. The situation with the money that we are about to receive, I have been able to get accommodation for the Greater Glasgow Community Hub based in Clarkston. We've managed to secure premises for them, and hopefully that will be available to them for about another 6 months or more. At no cost from a rental point of view, and no cost from a community charge point of view either. Hopefully the only expenditure that we are likely to be putting out is for the utility bills for the use of the premises. Up until now, they only had the use of a church hall for 2 hours on a Saturday morning. They now have these premises all week and in the evenings as well. So it's quite a good move for them. Tomorrow, and I was going to mention this towards the end, if Callan, Dick can stay on, Debbie Carmichael and David Wallace, and anybody else that's interested in the wrap-up scheme, if they would stay on at the end of this meeting, tomorrow, I'm hoping, I'm still waiting an email come through to find out whether I'll get permission to board the ship that's docked at the King George V docks in Glasgow, which is at the moment housing 900 Ukrainians as a stopover point before they move on to more sustainable accommodation. So I have a meeting with them tomorrow, and I'm hoping to be able to find out, well, I'm hoping to be able to get on the ship and hoping to be able to find out what facilities are available on board the ship for us laying out goods or for communicating directly with the Ukrainians that are on board. The other suggestions with regards to where the money goes, as I said earlier on, would be welcome. But I don't intend to be as slow spending the grant that we are just about to receive as we did with the last one, because like District 1020, I want to get another application in before the money runs out. Okay, any other questions, any other queries regarding how Foundation does or does not work, or how you think it does or does not work?
Don't see anybody with their hands up, John.
I hope they're all experts now. As I said, I mean, the questions and the emails that I get fired in my direction at the moment, I am now apparently an expert, according to Guruk Rotary Club, on how to do international money transfers. They've been trying to send £1,000 to a Rotary Club in Ukraine, and it keeps bouncing back because they've got the wrong international banking number, and it transpires that the number they've got is about 20 digits longer than it should be, and that's maybe why it's working that way. So I will find out tomorrow whether my alleged expert advice is working or not. I'll just need to wait and see. Okay. If nobody wants to ask anything else, I'm quite happy to wrap up and that's maybe the wrong words I'm using now. Quite happy to close with, as I say, with the wrap up people staying on if they can. And if there are any questions that arise in the course of the rest of the Rotary year, then please let us know. Just to give you some inkling of the new district's foundation team, a lot of us are already have already accepted in principle what we'll be doing in 2023 as of the 1st of July, or maybe even before that. So we hope that from a foundation perspective, there will be a very smooth transition into the new district. Yeah. And I'll let the two district governors wind things up now.
Thank you so much, John. That was a wonderful presentation on the Rotary Foundation. As I said earlier, it's our only charity. It's the one that we need to support. And if we don't keep giving to the Rotary Foundation, there is so much that we will all lose out on. From the global scholars to the assistance for people in Ukraine and Pakistan and other disaster zones that we need to be looking after. So thank you for that. And I can just encourage everybody to, as I mentioned in the chat box, to download what Gail has put into the chat box, circulate it among your members, and get everybody to be a sustaining member across the two districts. It's really important. We can do so much with a bit more money. Thank you.
I echo those sentiments. John, thank you so much for your presentation. I'm sure we have come away tonight knowing a bit more about Foundation. It always serves to be a good reminder. One of the things that I'm going around saying to people in my club visits is polio. We've got to carry on with polio. It's back in our countries. It's back in the United States. We cannot have it being endemic in our countries. So please, please continue your efforts in Foundation. And like I said, I've put the link to the secure form for RF UK for sustaining membership. So please consider that. And if assistant governors could highlight this when they're going around the clubs, will be absolutely fantastic. John, always a pleasure. And it's great that you've been able to share this tonight. So thank you so much.